tough with the homework. No, can you review, what page would we start? You want to start with the written stuff first?
On page 32,
Okay.
can you read to us on F?
Okay, let's go back to page 32.
Yeah, I feel that I started to get lost.
Okay.
It's getting very difficult for me, I think, to level of complexity where self-study doesn't work so much.
I'm not sure.
Okay. So here's what we're going to do today, something that we had kind of talked about earlier, and that we're going to now actually implement more of, which is chavruta, which is paired, and this doesn't have to be your lifetime partner pair, that's also lovely, but here's the person sitting next to you will do. Because now we're going to need to intensify. And it's just because we've picked up so many sounds and letters and shapes. That's what's happening. So instead of, remember in the past when we would go, remember at the very, very beginning I had to each read a letter, remember that? A syllable? And then we had to each do a whole line. So now, and so we're increasing our frequency. So now what will happen is, starting from today, we'll review, but then we'll break into mini groups and like pairs. And the benefit of the pair, from a pedagogy perspective, is that your repetition will be much greatly increased. Instead of following along while one person is reading all the way around, you'll be backward. What it will do is increase the volume of noise in the room. But what we also have options is if people want to, we'll take like 15 minutes of prayer time and then go into different corners, or two people go and sit there and then regroup. Okay, but let's go, and what I'd like to do now then is on page 32, what we're dealing with, what I suspected would be the struggle, and I actually asked some people, do you think we need to slow down a little bit? So now I'm seeing what's happening, is that we're getting a lot of nuances with the schwa, with the double dot. And that's what's happening, is we're encountering a situation where there's a greater thinking task involved. Right? Our initial decoding was very simple. What's the consonant sound? Is it k? Is it b? Is it t? Is it And then what's the vowel sound? And that's all the thinking we had to do. But now there's a third element of thinking, and that's what's now re-engaging our rational brain. To learn languages, you have to shut your rational brain off, because your rational brain slows you down. It's censoring you. But now you have to re-engage your rational brain to say, wait a second, is it in the first position? Is the schwa at the very beginning of the word? Is the schwa at the back of the word? Is it in the middle? Are there two consonants that are the same? Are there two schwas next to each other? Does everybody know what I'm talking about? These are the rules of schwa. And that's what's happening. So now you're re-engaging your rational brains, and then that's making yourself, your doubtful self, your rational, your critical self. So that's what I'm just unpacking why we're hitting this bump. The good news is we will push through this bump. It will not derail us. Fortify yourself, gird your loins, and we will thrust through this. So what I want to do now is first review the rules. Let's go back to that, because I think since our rational is our engaged. Turn to page 31. And for some of you this is review, some of you are struggling. At the beginning of the word, when the schwa vowel appears, it has a short sound that enables a consonant to be pronounced. And if everybody looks, so we're just reviewing the rules for schwa on page 31. If everybody looks at the last word, which is the first name of our synagogue, you'll be able to understand what that fancy language means. Who would like to read the last word?
The name?
Exactly right. So, everybody, let's just say that together. And when we're saying today out loud, listen, think about what you're doing with the bet sound. Ready? B'nai. B'nai. Okay? We're not staying too long on it. We're not elongating it. But we're giving it enough of a vowel that you can get the consonant out. Right? Does everybody understand? So, when the schwa is in the first position, it's actually the easiest. Okay? Now, let's jump to the second rule. No, wait, I'm going to slow down for a second. Does anybody have any questions about schwa in the first position? Yes, please.
That also depends upon which consonant is. So if you say Shema Yisrael, it would be Shema or Shema Yisrael. In other words, there's a little...
For the shin sound? Here's another another challenge. When we sing the words, and so much of our Hebrew we sing or we chant will elongate. So you'll hear sometimes Shema, and it sounds like Shema, right? But what's happening is it's just the singing is making you go that way, right? But the Shema itself is still doing its Shema thing. And it's a little more elongated because of the melody underneath it. That's a good point. That's a good point. Now, let's look at when it's at the end of the word. Again, this is really easy. When the schwa vowel appears at the last letter of the word, it's silent. So it's as if it's not even there. Let's read together that whole line. Ready? Mat, at, nat, natat, harat, bat. Now notice the trickiness on that last one. You have a silent aleph with nothing with it, and a tav with that. Shva. Okay, any questions about the end? Shva at the end, yes.
So what you're saying is that the vowel is silent and the letter is pronounced.
That is correct. That is correct. Now, we're going to start looking about it when it's in the middle. And when it's in the middle, we're going to talk about 3 different situations of when it could be in the middle. Let's look at the first rule. When 2 schwa vowels appear side by side in the middle of the word, the first schwa is silent and the second is pronounced. So let's do these together, because what they've done is they've split it in half. Okay? So how will we do? Let's read the first one. Tal, muro, tal, muro. Does everybody get that? How that is? The first one is silent and the second one is pronounced. So let's do it for the next set. Tash, lemay, tash, lemay. Is that easy to see that when you break it down? So when you have 2 schwas, the first one is silent and the second one is that short little pronounced sound. Now, when you only have 1 schwa in the middle, the vowel appears in the middle, when the schwa vowel appears in the middle of the word, it's generally silent, although there are instances when it's pronounced with a short sound. Unless you're told otherwise, it's best to treat the single schwa as silent. So for now, we'll not point out when there's exceptions, and there's not that many. Let's just work on making it silent for now, because I think we're getting a little bogged down with this stuff, with when to make what noises. So let's do this one as silent. So let's do this again together. Shamrat, shamnat, shamno, shamro, shamro. Okay, does everybody see that? Okay. Now, last but not least, the double sound. Okay? This is so you can imagine, a fairly rare situation when there's a schwa on the first vowel, on the first letter. I'm sorry, let me try again. When we're talking about a schwa in the middle of the word, and the 2 consonants are the same consonant, and we're on the top of page 32, and the second one has another vowel, and the first one has the schwa. You want to allow enough sound so that it's not going to be silent. Right? So let me read that last line on the top of page 32. Just listen to what this will sound like. Sholela, romemo, shatata, shomemot, molela. Could everybody hear looks like a little stutter where that consonant was pronounced? Let's read that together. Let's try that line together. Sholela, romemo, shatata, shomemot, molela. Does that make sense? Does that see it's okay? This is what I think, because that was where the faces were looking okay, now the faces are getting clouded.
If it wasn't there, you would just see these.
Yes. Yes, the schwa is making that little N, that's exactly right.
That's what I'm saying. If it wasn't there, it would make the sound of the consonant.
But the
But it would be
consonant,
longer than,
no, okay, so here's the question. The question is, if the schwa wasn't there, what sound would it make?
with that consonant.
How would you read the first one?
How would you read the first one? What's the answer, Peter? You couldn't, you couldn't. Exactly. The answer is you couldn't, you need a vowel.
But we talked about it last time, we were just breaking the syllable, like, show.
Say it again, that's right.
Show.
Where,
As opposed
tell me which word,
to show, the first word, show, wow.
Okay, so there must be, unless a consonant is the last consonant in a word, it must have a vowel to be pronounced. So if the lamed, the first lamed didn't have a schwa under it, we couldn't say anything.
Right, but it's not silent, it's not just making you say, because maybe you say.
Yes. Yes, that's the whole point. Say that again. Elizabeth just said it again, so let me repeat it. It's not silent. When the two consonants are the same consonant, so in the first one it's two laments. What is it in the second one? Two mens. What about in the third one? Two tavs, and then next two mens, and then two laments. So when it's that, when it's two of the same consonant side by side, and the first, and only in that case, and the first one has a schwa, you have to make that short sound. Otherwise, as we said, you can't pronounce it. Which is different than the rule on the page right before it. But the page right before it, if you turn back, where it's a single schwa, that's not when the second letter is the same, like two mems, two tops. See what I'm saying? That's the difference. And so this la, ta, mama is only the case where it's the same consonant. That's,
Here's a real word that has that?
well, we were talking the other day about the song that the cantor does, often called Roman Moon. Roman Moon, so that's a good example. And it's let us rejoice, let us make that happy sound. So, okay, now, is everybody's brain feeling a little bit more calibrated, rationally understanding? Now I'm going to actually practice making some of these sounds. What I want to do is, there was a request to read line F. Okay, so I'm going to read line F by myself, and then let's read it together, okay? Shema. Shemat. I'm sorry, F32, am I reading the F? Yeah. Okay. Shema, sorry, I was saying wrong. Shema. So, Shemat. Shemamat. Shemamta. Shemamta. Shomemo.
You're on the fourth word?
Yeah. Let me do the third one again, because I heard that one had an outcry. Shemamata. Is everyone okay? Do we have consensus? We'll vote on this.
Was it Shema or Shema?
It's good. Here's the question. Why would it be
It's the
Shemamta? Oh, I don't want to say it the wrong way. Why would it be that? Where's the schwa?
singles is second.
It's the second, not the first.
So should the son.
Yes. So that rule that we learned at the top of the page is when the schwa is at the first.
Right.
So yes, we have two consonants. Yes, we have a schwa, but it's the second and not the first.
So that third word is shemomata.
Shema.
Wait, let's say it again. The third word?
Shemamata.
Shemamta.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, is everybody good with that? That's a little tricky.
The rule is that it's the middle of the word rule.
And it's the middle of the word rule and not the,
Because it's the
First
second
and
Exactly right. Exactly right. Good. Now, let's look at the next one. Shomemo.
Because it's the first one, you have a little,
Yes. Tashmeme. So let's do it together. Does everybody see that? This is a very hard line. Let's do it together. Shema, Shemat, Shemamata, Shomemo, Tashmeme. Okay? Okay, good. Now, here's what I want to do. I want to do the homework, and then what we'll do is we're going to break into pairs for the review before we go on, okay? So when it says on the top of page 36, draw a line connecting each Hebrew consonant and vowel combination with a word that has the same sound. Let's just go around, and you can say like lane, and then which one down? How many down? You want to, we have the right page. Page 36. Did you want to go first?
Sure, low, and it's the word that we're about. If I'm saying the Hebrew word low, it's. Wait, can I do it again?
Okay, so,
Starting right now.
okay, oh, I see, okay.
It's name, and it's the third one down from the sheet. Are we starting with the Hebrew or the English?
Okay, I was going to try to make this easy. Let's read the English word. That makes it a little bit easier. And that's okay. Let's read the English word that the first word is lane, L-A-N-E. And it's very complicated, going in both directions now. And we're going to go around the room and say on that column which of the Hebrew words down it is. Okay?
Sorry, okay, lane. It is the one before the bottom in Hebrew.
Okay, good.
Not, it is the fourth one down.
name is the first word,
Good.
Or it's the last word.
Good.
Eight, it's the third word down.
Good.
Sean is the second word.
Good.
Note is the third word from the rock.
Good.
And it's the fourth one.
Good. Okay. Now let's do you want to start with Nash?
Nash,
Third word. Good.
air, sixth word.
Good.
Me.
Oh, and do you want to pick up where it says E?
Aim is the seventh word.
Good.
I'm going to pass.
Okay.
Toe is the second.
Good.
Ed is the last word,
Mm-hmm.
And Nay is the fifth one down.
Loan is the first.
No is the fourth down.
Okay, good. Now, it's hard to review the English the writing stuff, but the following are Hebrew words and names that you already know. Read each one out loud and connect it to its English equivalent. Yeah. So let's start at the top with, Leah, and then let's read the next one out loud. Shlomo. Who is Shlomo? Solomon, that's it, great. Well, let's do this next one. Yeah, they go on the next page, that's like what's the one right under Shlomo? Menorah, okay. And then on the right-hand column, Tamar, Amram, Rosh Hashanah. So now you know how to say Rosh Hashanah, how to write that. And then on the top again, Amen, Moshe, Menashe. Good. Now, everybody take a partner or a person. I don't know if you're keeping number 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, 21. That's okay. One group will have 3.
Elaine's Mariah song.
Oh, it's all right. So one group
She's
will
a
have
ringer,
3.
she can do this.
Actually, Elaine, do you want to be with your parents? Would that be good? Or do you want to? Okay. Actually, probably don't want to. All right, you guys take a couple of minutes, and what we'll do is read back and on page 38, the whole issue about gematria. Let's go to 39. Now, here's what's happening. Some people grasp this quicker than others. Some people have more time to study at home. Some people have more time to be here in class. If you have an evaluation, you can be here. So what's happening is the first week or two, there was not a great distinction between everybody. But now that we're 6 weeks or 5 weeks into it, depending on if you've missed a class or two, depending on if you've been able to study a lot, depending on what your own aptitude with language is, it may start to feel like things are splintering out. So my goal very, very much is to keep the group together. Okay? So what I need from everybody is foremost to not get upset at yourselves, to not get frustrated with yourself, to not compare yourself. Oh, so-and-so seems to have this very fast. That's good. We don't know what so-and-so, maybe they had like nothing to do that afternoon. They actually have to look at it. Maybe they got up before this morning to study, so who knows?
Maybe they went to Hebrew school.
Maybe they went to Hebrew school. Maybe they're just cheating in some way or another. So don't do that. The self is very critical. This exercise of learning Hebrew is more than learning Hebrew. It's anytime we learn something new. It's a life experience. And that's how I very much want everyone to take it that way. So don't let your critical voice turn on. Tell your critical voice to be quiet. Because we're in this together, and we're going to help each other. And we're going to get each other up the mountaintop. And one week somebody might need more help, and then another week somebody might be absent and might call somebody else. So what I want to do now is I want to introduce the next one, but I'm also going to, then we're going to have a chance to break up again. So do not worry, oh wait, we're moving ahead, but I haven't mastered the other things. Don't worry about that. Don't worry about that, because we're going to keep cycling back. And in the upcoming weeks, we may do one lesson spread over 2 sessions. Because right now we're doing a lesson a week, a lesson a week, a lesson a week. And very soon your brains may explode. And we don't want that. We all get messy here. So this week we'll do lesson 5, but next week we may also use it as a review of lesson 5. So I don't want anybody to feel rushed now, okay? So as I say that, as I'm introducing lesson 5, don't get your anxiety up. We're on the top of page 39. You have already learned the following Hebrew letters. Let's go around and just everybody say the name of the letter. Jonathan, why don't you start with the first?
Shin.
Lamed.
Hey.
Resh.
I don't remember.
Okay, good. And a lot of people were absent on that day. That letter, does somebody want to help out? Ayin, right. And those are both silent. Good, and? Good. So that's a lot of letters. That's a lot of letters there. Now, we've got these 8 vowels. Some of them make the same sound. So, Cindy, do you want to do the first 2, what they make? Okay, so those first 2, whether it's a straight line or a little T, are both going to make the sound ah. Okay? Do you want to do the next 2 there? Oh. Whether it's a dot hanging up in the air or like a lollipop, a straight line with a dot on top, those are both going to make O. Okay, what about the next one? N. Notice it's N. It's like EH. The next 2 make the same sound. Where did we, and do you want to do the next 2? A. Like an EY. Or even somebody could say AY, I'm not sure if I can hear enough of the difference. And what about, Judson, what about this new one that we're all struggling with?
Why, I haven't got to it yet?
It's a trick question because
Don't say anything.
don't say it. It's called a schwa, and what we learned is that it's silent when it's at the end of a word. It's silent when it's in the middle, if it's by itself. It makes a short sound when it's at the beginning of the word and when it's in the middle of a word in the first position of a double consonant. So those are our vowels. Now, we've also learned these 5 basic Hebrew words. See, do you want to do this line? Do you want to read that whole line?
Shabbat, Shalom,
it's one of the few sounds that we don't have in English. So this is a new challenge for our brains. Our brains have stored sounds that we learn in our native language. And so when we don't know that, when we learn a foreign language, our main thing we do is we go to our mother language to choose sounds. But your brain is going to go to your mother language and not find a sound. That will upset your brain and shut you down. Don't let that happen. Say, it's okay, relax, brain. You can make a new sound that you didn't learn as a child. Today you're going to make a new sound that you didn't learn as a child. So tell your brain that's what's happening, not to freak out, because that's what it does. It searches for sounds. That's how brains learn multiple languages. So this new sound is the ch sound. Everybody just go ch. Okay. How do you feel when you go ch? Not good. Okay. Why? Okay. I don't care if you're spending the next 3 minutes talking about it, because this is really an obstacle. This is what. Okay. Why do you not like it? Why do you not feel good? What's
I
this?
think it's the sound that sounds foreign in everything we're not to me. Like, I just struggle. Everything else, I look at it and the sound comes more natural. I have to say it slower, but this evokes something that I have to really stop, think how to formulate it, and then say it.
Okay, good. What were other feelings about saying ch? Other thoughts?
It reminds me of my grandpa.
Okay, good. Why does it remind you? No, this is exactly true. Why does it remind you of your grandpa?
Because he was fluent in Hebrew and Yiddish, and this just reminds me of listening to him speak.
And is that a positive or a negative thing?
It's positive.
Oh, it's a positive. Okay, good. Other thoughts about ch, about hearing ch? German. Yeah. And if people, some people may have German ancestry and feel good about that sound, but there are people for who, when they hear that sound, it feels harsh and can signal inside thoughts of Nazism and thoughts of the Holocaust. And people were very resistant to that sound for that reason. Other thoughts about ch. I've had people say that it sounds disgusting. It sounds like you're clearing your throat. Like a body function that we try to not amplify. We are amplifying that body sound. If you think of other sounds, it'd be very funny to make it part of the language. So all of these things, I've heard also people say that when I make that sound, I feel ethnically very Jewish, almost too Jewish. Yeah. And you'll hear sometimes with our kids that they'll do it correctly, but then in certain mixed company, they'll make it into an H sound. They'll soften it. Because they don't want to make it too Jewish. So you're nodding your head, you want to know?
Like Apple last night, going back and forth, he's like, no, and I'm like, that's almost going back and forth, I'm like, he's like, no.
This is not ground stimulation. We're not going back and forth.
Back and forth, I just couldn't get it.
Okay, all of these are valid. It is important to, again, not judge. At the very, very first class, we talked about we're all on this journey, we all are starting from different places and coming from different places. This is how it is. This is how it is. When you study Chinese, it's very tonal language. It's very frustrating because you have to distinguish between the tones. And like, wait, I don't even hear myself making those tones in English. And when I get tonal like that, it makes me think I'm going crazy. I'm hearing voices in my head. So people have reactions to sounds, okay? So that's all that's happening. And now that we know that that's what's happening, we're going to try to push through that. Now we're going to sort of take out the emotional overlay to it and realize that, if you used to make a b sound, now you have to make a h sound. For us, that's a non-emotional thought, right? But for somebody who didn't have a b in their language, it's a very tough thing. Oh, it sounds aggressive, but, I don't like that sound, Why would I press my lips together like that and blow air through it? That's not a nice thing to do.
Yeah, the irony about that letter is that we hear it all the time because we're Thai.
Right.
People say Thai very different ways, but they never means that word.
Right. And it's part of our name too. Chaim, right? And they Chaim. Which when I'm working in like the writing interfaith circle or the Wilton interfaith circle, it's really one of those things. You think we're struggling in this class? You can imagine when the selectman wants to introduce me correctly. I have seen adult men, grown men come to pieces over this. Turn red, get close to tears. letters whose pronunciation is altered by the appearance or absence of a dot in the middle of the letter. So let's just unpack that for a second. We said that there's 5 letters that when they're in the last position, they become sophete or final, right? Sophete means final. Only 5. The other ones, regardless of where they show up in the word, they're going to have the same shape. So the kaf is one of them. So that's one thing we know about the kaf. The other thing we know about the kaf is it's one of only 3 letters that when it has a dot in the middle, it changes its sound. We've already learned one letter like that. What letter did we learn that when it has a dot in the middle, it's different than if it doesn't have a dot? Bet, right. Every other letter, we've looked at lames with dots in the middle, and shins with dots in the middle, and hays with dots in the middle, and tops with dots in the middle. Those don't change.
Shin and sin.
But those are on the top, and we're talking right in the middle, right? So now we have this kaf, and it's going to change. The letter kaf without a dot in the middle, and we're going to learn it first without the dot in the middle, is pronounced exactly the same as the letter chet. Their sound is not like any consonant in the English language. It is a guttural sound, like the sound of the CH in the name of the German composer Bach. So that, I think this paragraph of explanation is a little confusing, but you haven't even had chet yet, so comparing to something you haven't had is not so helpful. But what we're talking about is that thing that looks like a backwards C. And we're going to study it first without the dot in it. And it's going to make a ch sound. So we'll call it a chaf. Chaf. When it's in the very last position, like a final nun or a final mem, it's going to have a long tail that goes down. Does everybody see the second one? And then it'll be chaf sophete. The next letter is the het. And what they are telling us is that the het makes the same sound. So chaf, final chaf, and het all make that ch sound. Okay? Now, look very carefully at the het. What does it remind you of? Of a hay. Good. What else does it remind you of? Of a top. Now, let's talk about this. Let's talk about this. How are we going to train our eyes to get this right? It's okay, good. So it's all on the left. I'm sorry, maybe it's not the same height, but I didn't mean to do that before. So this is chet, this is hay, and this is top. Now, I always talk to you right from the very first class. I talked about the toe of the top, right? So now I was fixing out talking about toes. Now you'll remember this is what that's about. It's the tav has that little toe that sticks out. And the way to remember the hay is it's only halfway. It's not exactly half. It's a little higher than half, but you'll think of that and then you'll say yes. It's halfway, so it doesn't go all the way up.
You could also think of it as a hole. There's a hole in it.
There's a hole in it. Good, good. So those are very tricky. So for some people, the sound production is a challenge. For other people, just the way our brains are wired, the eye stuff, seeing these little nuances is tricky. Again, don't judge yourself, don't be harsh on yourself. You're learning entirely new skills. It's really remarkable. It's not just a new language. These are distinguishing points in language that we gloss in our language. So we don't have that in our language. So now, let's apply this. Let's go nice and slowly and apply this. Our brains are very full. On page 40, it talks a little bit about look-alike language, look-alike, the thing we just said. The letters het and hay are nearly identical, as Susan says, and as they say on page 40, it has a hole in the top. The het and the tav are similar. The tav has the toe. Now, the bet and the ha are very similar. The bet is going to look like this. And the hop is going to look like that. Now what they're saying is, it's funny, the letters kaf and bet are often mistaken for one another, especially because both letters can be written with or without the dot inside. Thus far, the book has introduced only the pronunciation of the bet with a dot in it and the hop exercise of this book, the two letters can be distinguished by the presence or absence of the dot. The letters can also be distinguished by the fact that the top has a curved shape while the bet, which sounds like a B, has a bottom bar that extends beyond the back of the letter. I bring you this sort of couple that, but basically it's got this little thing here. So you might think it's beyond the back of the letter or something like that.
I don't confuse them.
I never do it, that's what I was going to say. For some reason, my eye doesn't have a problem.
I'm surprised that that's.
And they bring that up, yeah. That's why I never mentioned it, except that they have it here. I think the last, if you want to, you can read the last, I think after a while, they're looking for things to get confused about. Let's not talk about this. All right, here's what I want to do now. I want to break into table groups. Do you know what I mean? But, you know, let's do pairs. Let's do pairs. Let's do pairs. Let's do pairs, and let's do pairs just for A through F. Do you know what I'm saying? And then we're going to do out loud for the other ones. Wait, you know what? We have more vowels to introduce. We'll come back. We're going to do the reading separately. I want to introduce the vowels so then we can then do the reading. Okay? I'm sorry. Let's go to page 42. We're definitely going to spend 2 weeks on this lesson. There's too much new information here. Okay? Let's jump to page 42. We're getting 2 new vowels, and these new vowels make an oo sound, as in food. One looks like this. One looks like that. So how would you read that? Ooh, that's right. How would you read it if it was like, how would you read that? Good, good, good. How about that? That's right. Now,
We gotta make it louder.
well, you have to push a lot more here. What about that? Good, okay. So everybody sees that. Everybody understands that that's oo. Now, what if that dot wasn't there, but was something more like this? How would you read it? Okay, good. So your eye is very quick to catch that. When the dot is in the middle, it's oo, and when it's on the top, it's o. Okay? Now, there is another way to make an oo sound, and what it looks like is 3 dots underneath the letter going away. Yeah. So how would you read that? Ooh, that's right. And if you had a line like that, good, good. So these are your new vowels. These are your new vowels. So let's take a moment now and on the bottom of page 42, I want to stay in the group a little bit longer. Let's each read a full line. So John, can you read line A? Everybody follow along, this will be helpful.
Moo, moo, loo, shoo, oo, who, nu, tu, ru, who, who.
Good. Does everybody see that? You've got a couple of the new letters thrown in there. Now we're going to have them with not only the consonant vowel, but ending in a consonant sound. So do you want to do B, line B?
Got the first one, I'm already stuck on the second. Bowl?
Now what about
Loo. Loo.
good? Lul. Now, okay, what do you have here?
Oh, let's see. What is that?
Okay, we haven't seen this yet. Let's talk about it. What is, first of all, what's the consonant? It's a h, it's a cough, but what kind of cough? A final cough. So now, when you have final letters that are below the line, right? So these guys are sitting on the line here. When you have final letters that are below the line, shva. That's a shva. Hanging inside of a final half. Does everybody see what that is? Because the shva has no place to go because a final half dangles too low. That's the shva. That's So they'll have mercy on this final shva. They will have mercy on the shva when it's in a final position, in any position, but when it's under dangling below the line letter, which is going to be a final position. Okay, so now that we understand that, you see that there's a few of these. So let's try that one, Karen. Let's try, well, line B, the second word. That's it. Okay, so what her brain is doing, I'm going to dissect your brain for a second. Her brain, she already shared with us that she doesn't like to make the ch sound. So her brain is saying, I've seen this in transliteration. I've seen it as a CH. Maybe I'll say chew. No, I know that's wrong. Wait, ch is close to k. Maybe I'll say coo. No, I know that's wrong. Wait, ch is close to an H sound. Maybe I'll just say who. But she knows that's wrong. So that's what's happening. So her brain is doing it. So let's just watch her brain struggle. And our brains are struggling with her brains. So we'll send her some positive brain energy, and then the right sound will come out. So let's just wait a second. And everybody do it in your own brain. Do it in your own brain. No, don't look at me. There's some things that even our spouses can't help us with. So it's searching. The brains are searching now. And let's remember that we're looking for a ch sound. That's it.
Like swoon, W-H-O-O-N. Like
But where are you going to go?
But it's a long name.
Yes. Okay, so now say it out loud. Okay, but she's doing the brain's doing. Come. So what's happening is because it's so hard, her brain is pushing it into another place. That's what's happening. It's very hard to do this. I'm not saying that. We're all doing this.
We're not saying Bach. It's like Bach.
You can say Bob, right?
Can you say Bach? Okay, so now take that thing that happens at the end of Bach. It's happening very deep. It's guttural. And now bring it to the front. that out loud. And what we'll do, not next week, but in 2 weeks' time, is pick up from page 42. Does anybody have any questions? Yes.
Is there ever a situation where there's a final count with any other vowel other than this?
Mm-hmm.
But not,
Mm-hmm.
not, ma,
Think of Stephen's rule, which I think actually you should turn into URJ, that's a great superintendent.
so, ma, ma,
No, good.
te. No, ma,
Remember the little stuttering thing we're gonna do?
ma. Oh, it's a tongue, ma, te. Ma, te.
Good. That's good. Oh, I'm sorry, long. Now, if it's at the front of the syllable, if it's the first one,
La'am,
good.
sorry, la'am, la'an,
Mm-hmm.
laman,
Mm-hmm.
lama'an,
Mm-hmm.
lama'an, lam'an,
Mm-hmm.
lam'an, laman, man,
Okay, good, try that again, that's right.
lam, lamman, no, it's lamaman.
That's it.
Lamaman.
Now, some of you are, again, if you're used to hearing some of the Hebrew songs, the prayers, Leman, are you starting to hear that you're recognizing some of these words now? Good.
Not or? Nah.
Wait, go back, say that one again. The first one, I'm sorry, I didn't hear the first one.
Not or? Not oh. How do you say it?
What would you do with, let's break it down, what would you do with the nun, with the shva, if it's in the first position?
Silent?
No.
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 Right? Mhm. And then what do you have? You have a silent aleph, and then you have a,
Oh,
okay, so how would you put all that together?
not oh.
Good, that's it. Does everybody see that? That's very tricky. No.
Where'd the F come from?
The shva in the first position makes a short indistinct sound, like a but nay. No. Good, okay, sorry, Mark. Keep going.
Not or, not ray, not oh, ray.
Okay, now be careful, because this is the same criticism that I think I gave to Kim. When we are in that first position shva, if we linger too long, it becomes an A sound almost. So you don't want to say ma'ore. What do you want to say for the fourth one?
Not a ray,
Good.
not a ray.
Oh, here's a double.
Oh, great.
The doubles.
Araru?
Okay, what's the R's, the ratios were right, but what's the last vowel?
Araru.
The double dot with the yud.
A.
Mm-hmm. I'm hearing that, right?
So it's ray,
Good.
arane.
Ah, but when it's in the middle with nothing else, what is Stephen's rule?
That's
it. It's a good rule, makes it very easy. So how would you say that? R,
Arane.
good, Arne.
What was the third?
1, 2, 3. Net ore. Wait, am I right? 1, 2, 3?
Yeah, no, array.
Can you read the whole line?
Okay, I'll try to read E. Let's go very, very slowly. Ne-o, ne-or, ne-ore, me-ore, R-A, I'm sorry, R-A, R-ne. The or shasita from the Yotzer. So now you're starting to see these words, or I can now read these words. Okay, good. Let's do F.
Shumam, shumat, shumamta. That's a toughie.
Yeah, that's good. Momta, yeah.
Shomamo, tashmame.
Oh, good.
Isn't the fourth one
1, 2, 3.
Shomo?
Ah,
It's two
it's,
mums and a mem.
what's the rule, right, Pam, say that again, that's it.
There's two mems side by side, so you have to
Okay,
put two
Mo,
sounds.
sorry.
Normally you're right, except if it's the same consonant. That's the trick, that's where you get that little that little skipping
But
sound.
if they both had schwas, if both the mems had schwas, you wouldn't say the first one, you'd say, I'm getting confused by the,
Okay, if they both had schwas, let's go back to, because some people are more visual. Look at the bottom of page 31. Remember we did tal, maro, and then we put it together to,
right.
so the first one is nothing and the second one is the short sound.
But that's if there's two.
Okay.
That's if they're
That's
two and they're
different-
just in two different
Okay.
consonants.
Oh.
But if it's the same consonant, then you say it. I'm
No,
getting
or make
confused
both
by the
sounds.
same- You wanna make both sounds, okay.
Yep.
Thank you.
Okay, let's keep going.
G.
Orla. Orlo. Orra. Orwrote.
Say that one again, because that was a hard one.
Orwrote.
Ah, but you've got two ratios, so how do we make double rays?
Orwrote.
Good. Could you hear it? She said it right, it's very hard to hear. That's right, okay.
Orlo.
Good, very good.
Alimman.
Okay, now, when you have a shra, there's only one in the middle.
Ale.
Then you don't need to pronounce it.
Oh. Al. Al. Men.
All is good, and then what's under the mem? That little T vowel.
Eh.
All, mon,
Alman.
good.
Al. Almon.
Good.
Almana.
Good.
Alma.
Ah, now this time they dropped the lamed out.
Oh. No. Amnan.
Then what's that after the nun?
Oh.
Mm-hmm.
Known.
Good.
Unknown. Nam.
And this you can even make it shorter. Aninam. Did that? Yeah.
Nam.
Mhm.
Ananam.
Good. Very good. Oh, sigh of relief from it.
El Bosch, now Beige, now Bosho,
Now what would you want to do with that bit? What would?
Bosho.
You're, okay, this is very tricky. Look, everybody, let's look at this on, okay, well, try again.
Now Bosho.
Yes. She had to decide, will I take that dot and make it an O? Will I leave it for the shin? Or will I take the shva? That's what her brain was trying to do.
Slayer to be named later.
Tal Boshe.
Good.
Tal Bosho.
Very good.
Can you say that third one again?
Yes, thank you.
1, 2, 3. Nal b'sho. So here's what my brain had to do. It had to say, wait, there can't be two vowels on one consonant. That's the rule. That's a different rule than in English. There can't be two vowels on one consonant. So the shva has to be a player here. because you can't have the schwa and the O sound.
Can you read the last?
I'm not getting that one.
Okay, let's do this again, Say, I'm sorry, Dave, say what you just said
Just
again.
on I, the last two words.
Okay. So you know, I'm gonna read I, I'm just
So
gonna read
that's-
all of I, okay. El Bash, Nal Besh, I'll say it even differently. Nal Besh, Tal Besho, Tal Beshe, Tal Besho. Oh, does that make sense? Now, the good news, after all that, you've earned another word. You've now learned the word to spell. Who can read this? Shema. Good. So do you see how Shema should not be actually pronounced Shema or Shema? It's Shema. Which when we do with the kids, you know, Shema, we do it right. It's just that when we see it spelled, sometimes it's spelled S-H-E, and so then we want to make a longer E. So Shema. This is a command form of a verb, which the root is shin, mem, ayin. The basic meaning of this root is to hear or listen or obey. The command Shema can be translated as hear or listen. The word Shema is the first word of the biblical verse of Deuteronomy 6:4. This verse is considered the central affirmation of Jewish faith. It is recited during morning and evening services, and some Jews recite it every night at bedtime. It is also part of the text inscribed on the scroll within the mezuzah that hangs on the doorposts of Jewish homes and institutions. So if you ever open up your mezuzah, inside is a tiny, tiny piece of parchment or a piece of paper, and you'll see on it the Shema. Just as a, I don't know if these guys mention it, it's a favorite topic of mine, so I'll mention it in passing. In Torah manuscripts, there are certain letters that are always written majuscule or minuscule, meaning extremely large or extremely small. And, I don't mean stretched out to justify the columns, but I mean height small or large. And in the Shema, the ayin, so in Deuteronomy 6:4, the ayin is always written majuscule. Now, we can talk about this in great detail. This was the thesis, my rabbinic thesis, was majuscules and minuscules in the entire Tanakh. But for now, we just will mention that in passing. Now, let's take a look on the top of page 33. The Shema, the verse affirms the Jewish belief in the Eternal One. You may already know the Shema by heart. You can now read many of the Hebrew letters and vowels in this verse. So everybody, just take a look at that for a second. And yeah, you can read probably about 80% of this. Let's say the Shema out loud together, but use your finger as we go from word to word. So catch yourself actually trying to read it. Shema Yisrael Adonai. Now, did we talk about how Yud Yud is Adonai? That was on one of the little inserts to read. Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad. So that's pretty good.
I'm not even gonna ask about the two vowels under
Which one?
Elohim. Do the Aleph under Elohim, or is that one vowel we haven't learned yet?
Which
It
one?
looks like two.
Oh,
Yes.
under Eloheinu. We haven't learned it yet. But two, when you add a shva vowel to another vowel, since the shva vowel is silent, the vowel takes the talking vowel takes over from the silent vowel. It's an aggressive vowel. So can you see how Eloheinu would be eh?
Yes.
Because the shva with
Yeah.
the three dots are commanding over the shva. Okay, now we're going to go on a little bit. Yes, please, of course.
Can you just tell us our homework?
Oh, goodness gracious. Okay, wait, let's skip ahead. We're going to talk about Nun Top, final Nun. I want to mention that writing on page 35. Do take some time to learn the writing. Aleph and Ayin